All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're diving into something truly fascinating, a real mashup of ancient mystery and super modern science. We're going to explore this wild idea. What if you could understand ancient prophecies by looking at them through the lens of quantum information? Sounds crazy, right? Well, let's see. So let's kick things off with this premise right here. It's a mind-bender for sure. This question forces us to look at everything from the Oracle of Delphi to Nostradamus in a totally new light. Not as some kind of magic, but maybe, just maybe, as a kind of ancient data hiding in plain sight.
Okay, so let's get into it. The first thing we have to talk about is the one thing almost all prophecies have in common. They are seriously ambiguous. I mean, they're famous for being vague, right? They almost never give you a clear date or a specific name, yet for thousands of years they've had this incredible power over us. So what's the deal with that? Now, before we even get close to quantum physics, we need to talk about the most powerful tool in this whole equation, our own brain. Because the secret here isn't necessarily buried in some ancient text, it's actually all about how our minds are hardwired to interpret them. And that brings us to this really key psychological idea, the Barnum effect. Yep, it's named after P.T. Barnum, the circus guy. This is the exact reason why your daily horoscope can sometimes feel so spookily on point. It's a little trick our brain plays on us, making us think general information is incredibly personal.
And here's a perfect example of how it works. You read a statement like that and, well, who doesn't that apply to? But it feels personal because our brain immediately jumps in and fills in all the specific details from our own lives. We're the ones who do the heavy lifting to make the prophecy feel true.
Okay, so put a pin in that psychology stuff for just a moment. Let's switch gears and head over to the quantum world. Modern physics is starting to describe reality in a new way. A lot of physicists now argue that at the very bottom of it all, the universe isn't just matter and energy, it's also information.
First up, you've got this bizarre concept called superposition. Think about it like this. Picture a coin spinning in the air. Before it lands, is it heads or tails? Well, it's kind of both. A quantum particle is just like that. It exists in this weird, fuzzy cloud of all possible realities at the same time, until you look at it and force it to pick one.
And then there's entanglement. This is the one Einstein famously called spooky action at a distance. You can have two particles that become linked, and I mean deeply linked. So much so that what happens to one instantly, and I mean instantly, affects the other, even if they're on opposite sides of the universe. It's like their fates are completely intertwined.
So, now we've got these two worlds that seem miles apart, right? Our brain's psychology on one side and quantum mechanics on the other. But this is where we build a little bridge and see how one can be a really powerful metaphor for understanding the other.
What if we stop looking at a prophecy's vagueness as a flaw, and instead see it as a statement of superposition? Think about it. It isn't describing one single concrete future. Instead, it's describing a haze of many possible outcomes, and that haze only collapses into one reality when we look back and interpret it.
And what about all those ancient ideas about interconnected destinies? You know, the web of fate. Could that just be an ancient, intuitive way of trying to get at a concept like entanglement? The idea that people and events that seem separate are actually, on some fundamental level, mysteriously connected?
Now, this next point is absolutely crucial. To be 100% clear, we are not saying that ancient seers were secretly quantum physicists. No way. This is an analogy, a metaphor. We're just using the language of today's science as a new lens, a new tool to look at the structure of these ancient texts. And when we use that metaphorical lens, something really fascinating happens. Prophecy stops looking so much like magic, and it starts to look a lot more like an ancient symbolic attempt to model a very complex and uncertain world, kind of like a pre-scientific way of mapping out probabilities and connections.
This table really sums it all up perfectly. On one hand, the psychological lens tells us how prophecies work on us through things like the Barnum effect. That's the straightforward, scientific explanation. But on the other hand, the quantum lens gives us this powerful analogy. Just like observing a particle collapses it into one state, that's the observer effect, our act of interpreting a prophecy makes it true for one specific event. It's a really compelling way to frame it, not as magic, but as symbolic modeling.
And that leaves us with this final, really provocative thought. When we apply our most advanced scientific metaphors to our most ancient wisdom, we're not trying to prove the ancients were right about everything. Instead, we're just finding new ways to appreciate their amazing attempts to make sense of a really complex universe. So you have to wonder, what other mysteries are out there just waiting for the right metaphor to unlock them?